Hi, welcome back to another Guiding Principles Explained with Lynn Forrest. I'm Jaquetta, and we are going to talk about the eighth guiding principle, the law of projection. The law of projection states, when we project our beliefs onto others and then treat them as if our projections about them are true, which ends up bringing us exactly what we expect from them, whether it is what we want or not. That is so true and such a powerful law. Absolutely. What would you like to say about that, Lynn?
The law of projection is a continuation of the seventh law, which is the reality we call the reality formula, that says when we believe what we think, we both feel and act as if it's true. And by feeling and acting as if what we believe is true, we will play it out in the world in a way that invites others to prove us right. And this is the law of projection, is the understanding of how we do that, how it is we teach others how to treat us by projecting out whatever it is we already believe about ourselves in the world. Revealing when we find ourselves resistant to someone. And we will, one of the common ways we project is through judgment, by judging others. When we find ourselves judging, we know that we're in the midst of a projection. That I wouldn't feel near as resentful, irritated, frustrated, whatever, by whatever it is I tell myself you're doing or saying or how you're acting. It wouldn't be so bothersome for me, or perhaps bothersome at all, except that it is stirring that in me that I have already judged, a judgment I'm holding against me. It's showing me that. And that is the sacred function of judgment. And it is the law of projection being played out. And so when we understand that, again, these tools just describe, these principles simply describe the way mind works. And when we do it, whether or not we are conscious of doing it, because it's the way the mind is designed to work. And so the law of projection is just what minds do. It's not like you shouldn't do that or you need to stop doing that or whatever. But knowing these principles allows us to then use them in a conscious way so that we can spot through our judgments of others, for instance, where it is we're out of right relationship with ourselves. And we can make the shift there. When we reel the projection in by turning in and saying, okay, who is that in me? Then we can begin to question that and bring in some space in our relationship with ourselves, so that we can allow ourselves to recognize where it is that we are out of sync with ourselves, and to bring in forgiveness, bring in acceptance, bring in understanding. That's the key. When we begin to understand why we believe what we believe and why and where that leads. We get in relationship, we've been married or in partnership or with someone for a period of time, and then we just go ahead and we say things to them that we certainly wouldn't have said to them in the beginning, not when we were courting them, for sure. And maybe we would not speak to our best friend outside of that relationship like that. We might say disparaging things to them and very blunt, abrupt, even mean things to them. We might lay judgments on them. We do this, I'm convinced, because we have gotten so comfortable with them. We say to them the kinds of things we say to ourselves. In other words, they really literally become a mirror of our relationship with ourselves. And it can be very revelatory, and it can be very helpful when we begin to listen, understanding that. Because we come into a recognition of how we treat ourselves in the world, and how it is then. And then what we do is we actually, in the way we talk to them and the way we respond to them as a mirror of what we feel and think about ourselves, we will actually, quote unquote, train them to treat us in ways that prove that our unhappy story about ourselves is true. So
Yes.
they will open.
Yeah. So when you treat someone close to you, or a close friend or a relative, and you speak to them the way that you're speaking to yourself, which is very blunt, irritated, impatient, maybe mean,
Mm-hmm.
and you say those words out loud, that does train them to respond to you in the same manner, so that
That's exactly right.
when you get that kind of response back, it's a good time to go, oh, how am I speaking? How am I speaking to them? And how am I speaking to myself?
And how would I like it to be? And so
Yes.
we began to learn how to actually consciously focus our intention and respond by responding consciously and with kindness and clarity and truth. Telling the truth doesn't mean that I'm telling you, reporting to you my story about you. You're selfish, or you don't do blah, blah, blah. It always, my truth is always going to be my sharing with you my story about you and what it creates in me that may separate us, so towards the goal of rebuilding that bridge. And that is powerful stuff. I've watched it heal major breaches in relationship, relationships that thought they were done, found a new birth through this work of using these principles in their own mind with themselves first and foremost. So, and this law of projection is a big tool, because when we really, really use it to spot, the saying is, if you spot it, you got it.
So it's, in this way, it's very similar to the law of reflection, isn't it?
Yeah, the thing about these principles is they're just little pathways all connected to a whole concept. And it's just me saying, and then there's this principle that's tied in with that principle, which then leads to this principle, and they're building blocks. And so we separate them for the purpose of understanding the nuances of this particular piece of the whole ball of wax. But it all works together.
Kind of like threads of a main.
Very much like that, like a ball of yarn, all all these strands, which are then created into a fabric of your choosing.